Hello, Joan. Guy, you are appearing as Sula.
I guess that let me rename because I just clicked on the link that I'm supposed to use. I didn't even realize what was happening.
Okay, please rename. Where are you? Good.
You see, even Lydia is Sula.
What's going on? Soon I will become Sula. Joan, do you know that I still have your certificate, your beautiful certificate of last time?
Banang. When are you giving me my certificate?
I don't even know. But we should let people in, Banang. Derek, are you there?
Yes, we're already live.
Okay, Kale. Okay. Good luck.
Play some music.
Joan, thank you.
Hello, good evening, everybody. You're most welcome to yet another webinar where we talk about retirement planning. You're most welcome, and we'll be starting shortly. But before we start, we'll run a poll. Just to understand who's with us and the different ideas and inclinations about retirement planning that they come with to this webinar. So we'll be running a poll. Please respond to it, and it will help us to contextualize. So that will be one of the first things we do. But for now, I welcome you all. Welcome Alan, welcome Mr. Nkova, welcome Catherine, Emma, Johnson, Patrice, Priscilla, Richard, and Mr. Senkatuka. You're in the house already, and we are happy that you could spare some time to be with us this evening. We're waiting for a few more people to join in, and we shall get rolling. But for now, just feel welcome. Whet your appetite for what we're going to serve this evening. Look out for the poll when it starts, and looking forward to a very interactive and highly productive session. Welcome again, and thank you for sparing time to be here. Okay, great. Good evening once again, and welcome to our 10th webinar. This is our 10th webinar in this series of webinars that we're holding to mark the Banking and Financial Services Awareness Month. We started this on 31st October when we celebrated the World Savings Day. In this Awareness Month, we're running a campaign which we have codenamed My Steps, My Wealth. My Steps, My Wealth. And we're talking about different steps that we can take to build our savings and allow them to grow and give us greater wealth. So we are saying, start saving, be consistent, grow, and that way you finish strong. So please, you're most welcome. Thank you for always joining us. Thank you for all who have joined us throughout the week and ever since this campaign started. We believe that you have been enriched by all the webinars. Don't forget to get in touch with us. Visit our Awareness Month web portal, www.yourmoneycan.or.ug. And there you find a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, a lot of materials that you can apply as you take your steps to build your wealth. Visit that portal, there's a lot more. The recordings of the webinars that we have gone through are also up on our YouTube channel. Please be there and continue learning even when the campaign ends. I'd like to recognize the Uganda Institute of Banking and Financial Services and the Uganda Bankers Association, who have partnered with Bank of Uganda to bring us this campaign. This campaign, as I've already mentioned, has been a series of free webinars, and we've just been talking money, and we shall continue talking money for a full month. We've been talking about different pillars of personal and financial management, savings, loans, investments. And this week we have focused on retirement. We've talked about retirement since Monday, and we're concluding this particular pillar with tonight's webinar. Thank you all for being a part of this. I'd also like to recognize our sponsors: Housing Finance Bank, Equity Bank, Finance Trust Bank, DFCU Bank, Citibank, KCB, Financial Intelligence Authority, ABSA, Mercantile Credit Bank, Exim Bank, Finca Uganda, NCBA Bank, Ugaford Microfinance, BRAC Bank, Bank of Africa, Diamond Trust Bank, ABC Capital Bank, Bank of Baroda, Tropical Bank, and Cairo Bank. Those are our sponsors, and we thank them for making this possible. We're continuing with Banking and Financial Services Awareness Month webinar series, and today is our 10th, as I've already mentioned, and we're talking about how to set realistic retirement goals. Tonight, we have Ms. Joan Mugenzi. Let me tell you a little bit about Joan. Joan is a life strategist, a motivational trainer, and coach. She offers both motivational training and coaching that enables individuals to translate their ideas into reality. You have a dream, you have an idea, but you don't know how to get it out of your head into reality. You have Joan. She's a certified trainer of international success coach, Jack Canfield, And at the moment, she's the only one in East Africa certified to teach the Canfield Success Principles. We're lucky to have you, Joanne. Joanne is the creator of Imagine Me. And Imagine Me is a step-by-step process that enables participants to reflectively develop practical steps and action towards the achievement of their dreams. And she's been running this program since 2014. She's the founder of Imagine Me Africa. Joanne, some of you will recognize the name. She's an author. She wrote for us Corporates at a Crossroads. This is a book that draws your attention to the reality that jobs come to an end. They don't last forever. What happens when your job comes to an end? What happens when you realize, or when you come to face the reality that jobs actually come to an end? How do you act on that knowledge? Joanne authored the book, Corporates at a Crossroads. I could say a lot about Joanne, but in the interest of time, I will stop there and welcome Joanne to speak to us. Joanne, we're happy to be with you. Thank you very much for giving us a piece of your time. Thank you very much for allowing to spend a Friday evening with us. I will invite Joanne now to make her presentation, after which we shall have a discussion, a Q&A, and then we'll have a nice weekend. But before Joanne comes, as I promised, there's a poll running. It's a short one, it's a quick one. Please respond to it as Joanne gets ready to speak to us about setting realistic retirement goals. Once again, I welcome you and wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you. Joanne?
Thank you, Lydia. I see the poll is up, so I thought we are waiting for people to respond to the poll. Or should I just dive in?
Let's give it a minute. It's a very short poll. It doesn't take a long time. So let's give it 1 minute. And once we have the result, we can dive in. Okay. Okay, Joanne, there we have it. 15%, 15 to 30, 31%. The biggest percentage of our listeners tonight are in the age bracket of 31 to 50. The biggest percentage of our listeners tonight are in the private sector, 85%. The biggest percentage have attended a retirement talk before, 92%. And it has been organized by their employers for the biggest part. Others have been organized by savings groups, social club or associations, friends and family, but the bigger percentage by the employer. And yet another percentage, this has been organized by the Uganda Institute of Bankers and Financial Services. And yes, 92% are already planning for retirement. So that is our audience tonight. Those are the bigger figures, but it's a mix. It's a mix. And now I'll invite Joanne with that in the background to proceed with her presentation. Joanne, you're most welcome again.
Okay, thank you, Lydia. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be back to engage with the Uganda Institute of Banking and Financial Services. I know that I've been on this platform before. When I look at the profile of the people on the call, it sounds like I'm going to preach to the converted. And that poses a different challenge altogether, because it means you can't come around and sing the same song unless there's something that is changing in the tune that you're offering. And I'm happy to see that there are some young people. When I see the 15 to 30, I see that majority of us fall within that bracket of 31 to 50. But I've also seen some people who are, between 61 to 80. And that's really encouraging, because it's a broad spectrum that we are working with. As you've heard, my name is Joanne Mugenzi. I'm with Imagine Me Africa. And what we do at Imagine Me Africa is that we deal in the business of imagination. So let me just pull up the slides that I'll be working with and engage us a little bit. And the topic that I was asked to speak to is about setting realistic retirement goals. This is one of my signature cover pages because it represents different generations. And I love to engage in conversations with different generations because it gives you an opportunity to have an understanding of where people are. And we majorly do motivational training and coaching. So I'm a lead coach at Imagine Me Africa. And I'm happy that I am here. And today is quite a unique day. I woke up very early in the morning because I had to speak to close to 200 people working with a bank. And I was there to talk about money, your path to financial freedom. That was the engagement that I had. And I am also the chairperson, board of trustees for the Mazima Voluntary Retirement Benefits Scheme. And what we do there is that we mobilize the informal sector to be able to save for themselves and secure their future. We all know that if you're in an organized environment, you're probably contributing to NSSF. And we also know that if you're in the public service sector, then you're looking forward to your pension. But the informal sector is on their own. We are on our own because the informal sector also takes care of those of us who are self-employed. But the other exciting news is that clearly people are looking for other options where they can be in charge, because increasingly we are seeing that our platform, the Mazima Voluntary Retirement Benefits Scheme, is attracting people from the corporate sector as well. What that means is that whereas they are contributing to NSSF, they are also contributing to the Mazima scheme, and it's exciting. And today is a special day because it's the last Friday of the month. And for us, Friday is like our big savings day. All we do is we use our phones to save. And so it's always interesting, and we save for retirement. That is what we do. So it's really exciting that, I came here to speak about retirement, but it's a meaningful day. I also read, Lydia, that this is part of the activities of October, because October was officially the World Savings, was it the World Savings Month, or 31st was the World Savings Day, I forget. But we also took it up as a scheme to challenge ourselves to save. And I must say that indeed we saw, our savings shoot up in October. So we really honored the month, and it's very exciting that I'm here to now speak about the retirement goals. And we are looking at setting realistic retirement goals. But I'll first tell you a little bit about what we do as Imagine Me Africa. I did mention that, we deal in the business of imagination. And for me, this is something that is very close to my heart, how I ended up in this space where we deal with the employment transition coaching. I used to work for an international NGO, World Vision International. And before it was split into three sub-regions within Africa, it was World Vision Africa. And I remember when there was a restructuring that was going to happen, they came, the leaders always have that's the duty to go and engage their members. And so they came to, our leader came to speak to us just to paint the picture of what was going to happen with the restructuring that was about to take place. And I remember one lady actually started wailing, literally wailing. And I was baffled, because from the time I had joined World Vision, I had known this person to be in an international job. So I couldn't understand how somebody who had worked for most of their part in an international role, how they could begin wailing. So it just showed me that they were not ready. And for me, that kind of struck a chord within me. And I asked myself, these tools that we use in the workspace, can't they be applied to individuals? If you sit and you say, yes, as an organization, we have a vision, as an organization, we have a strategy, as an organization, we have a mission, do I have those that govern me as an individual? So that is kind of the backbone of where I'm coming from. And it came out of curiosity. You know, my first job was in journalism, and journalists are generally curious. We ask questions. I was asking questions. I didn't realize that that was also preparing me for the world of coaching. We still trade in inquiry. And so what we really focus on is employment transition coaching. And what this covers is that we are looking at the entire employment cycle. From the time somebody is starting out, career planning, because we know right now as we speak about retirement, we normally say, start preparing for your retirement the day you receive your first paycheck. And as we teach young people, we also tell them, begin learning how to put aside some funds for yourself with every pocket money that you receive. We also look at people who are switching jobs or roles. We find people sometimes who are really frustrated and they're wondering, what is it that I'm going to do next? I've been in this position for the last 10 years. I'm frustrated, there is no growth. And so we have conversations that kind of help them move on. Some of them, after they've have done all the praying and whatever it is, guess what? They get the job and they are confused, because now they don't know how to settle in those jobs. Probably they've been doing a tactical role, and all of a sudden they're supposed to be leaders, and they do not know how to detach themselves from the operational side of things to begin leading. And of course, managing employment disruptions. We all know what COVID-19 did to the world. I did my master's in public health. I engage with the health of the mind. We studied pandemics, but there is nothing like that we had ever witnessed. So it brought a proper meaning to the word pandemic. And also, of course, there are people who transition and choose self-employment. Like myself, I chose self-employment. So I switched from a job to begin pursuing what I really love. And I saw myself contributing in a totally different way. And so we support people to think through that. And the reason we are here, when we talk about the employment cycle, it really ends with retirement. So that then you know what happens. As I'm starting out, one day I'll retire, whether I like it or not. And it's not a subject that I just talk about. I've written about it, like Lydia, you've mentioned Corporates at a Crossroads. And this is a book that I wrote really more to share the experiences that I was engaging with, but I also needed a way of landing in the entrepreneurial world. I had been working for an international organization. I lived my life off a suitcase. I didn't have networks, and I had to figure out how best do I put myself out there. And so the best thing that I could do was to write. I wrote a book, and yeah, it is helping. And so that book, that is not my home library. That's a book that somebody took the time when the book was out, and it was at Aristoc, and they sent that. And it was really exciting to see that the book was placed alongside international authors. And for those of you who have been in a couple of my engagements, I normally say that this is my signature. There is no place I have spoken at where we are talking things to do with transition and that I don't use the Journey of Life tool. It's a tool that I developed just to help me visualize what exactly goes on in a person's life, because we know somebody starts life at age 0 when they are born, and a lot of things happen here. So many things, you know, you're with your parents, whoever it is, they feed you and all that. You're depending on things, and then eventually you step out. Probably, you know, you for the first time you start renting, or you start a family, and you know, life takes a different twist. And of course, now as we speak, we are in 2021, and we are going to look at what does transition look like. And when you transition, you still have another so many years to live. I mean, when I say next stage, just read it as death, because we don't need a prophet. It's only a matter of when we will all die one day and leave this world. But what we are looking at, you should be able to maximize your energetic years. And as you're maximizing these energetic years, this is where you would be able to plan and think about your retirement. And for us, this is where we derive our name, because we deal in the business of imagination. The vision for our organization is simple. We want to see a world where every corporate employee transitions or retires into a fulfilling, productive life. Of course, that's the space that I understood well. And I was thinking there is no reason, like I told you, the person who literally almost passed out just because they've announced that they are losing their job, and yet they had been having very fulfilling jobs as far as we were concerned. And what do we do in this process? We follow what we call a due process. This due process really enables you to kind of discover your life purpose, determine your true north, and then we unearth what truly matters to you, because life is like an iceberg. So many things are unconscious to you. So as we begin supporting you to lift that iceberg, there are a couple of things that will manifest, and then we support you in that process to evolve into your authentic self. So you don't live for others, you live for you, because you've discovered who you are, you discovered the things that resonate with you, and that is what we use to come up with things that would support you as an individual. So these trade secrets are as diverse as the individuals we work with, and we are sure that when we hold your hand, that's our tagline, that, you know, holding each other's hands all the way. When you work with us, we are certain that you will succeed. So what is retirement? Because the invitation was for me to speak about setting realistic retirement goals, and we'll find out what that means. What is realistic, and realistic to who? So one of the definitions that I came across is that it's the action or fact of leaving one's job and ceasing to work. So you wake up one morning and leave your job. What this ideally means, it has nothing to do with the traditional understanding of retirement, that, you know, you've hit a certain age, because in most cases, that's what is floated before us. The other thing that I came across is that it's the time when one chooses to permanently leave the workforce behind. So there's an element of choice there. And the third one is that, you know, the withdrawal from one's position or occupation from one's active working life. And what is interesting is that sometimes you might also be semi-retired when you're simply reducing your work hours or workload. And sometimes it is situations that are really beyond you that are going to push you out of work. You know, you get an accident, maybe your spinal cord is impacted, and all of a sudden you're going to be confined to a wheelchair. We know what the border guys do to, you know, to people in the city, or anything, a stroke and somebody is paralyzed, or you know, things happen. You're just incapable of doing anything. I guess we've all seen this picture. If you haven't, this is what is happening. And for me, this just shows me that the dire need to support people to prepare for retirement. Imagine 1,000 civil servants applying to reduce their age. And there are things that I kind of understand when I think about the interactions that we've had. The way I ended up in the retirement space almost came as a result of demand, because for us at Imagine Me Africa, it's been an organic evolving. So we've been responding to the asks and then refining our products, because then we know this is what people are asking for. We know what kind of packages they require, and we've put in a lot of work to refine those products. And I remember one time that one of the very first corporate spaces that I stepped into to speak about the subject of money and retirement was with Bank of Uganda, their top tier leaders. And one of them actually said, you know what, my issue here, it has nothing to do with money, okay? My concern is when I wake up every morning, what am I going to do? So people have several things. And I know that usually when we are talking about retirement, it's only cash that we think about, but there are a couple of other things that one needs to consider. So as you listen into this, I want you to consider and ask yourself, what is your idea of retirement? You as an individual who is on this call, what is your idea of retirement? Because when we talk about setting realistic goals, for me, the realistic is according to who. So it will start with you to determine and decide what kind of lifestyle am I looking at? Where do I want to be? What do I envision myself doing? Because then that is going to inform a couple of things that you're going to invest in. I'll tell you that one of my motivations for getting into coaching is the fact that I want to be in my old age and people say, go and talk to the other old woman. By the time you leave, you will feel empowered. Because I'm spending my time, I'm spending my money, investing in myself to simply learn how to listen and learn how to work with this raw material called a conversation. Because in that conversation, people have a lot of noise and the things that matter to them are hidden in there. So as the observer, as the mirror to that person, I'm helping them, I'm supporting them to begin considering the things that might actually be important to them, and not dictating for them. And for me, that is a major shift. It's a major shift because there are a couple of training programs that have undergone. I mean, I was even trained as, I'm a certified Bank of Uganda financial literacy trainer. So there are all those things that, they teach you, go teach. But the more I have done coaching, the more I've interacted with people, the more I realize that telling people what to do is not going to shift them. There are blockages in there. What are their assumptions about life? What are their belief systems? If somebody is telling you, it's YOLO, you only live once, and that is how they look at things, it doesn't matter what long-term perspective you're going to give them. While others are going to be thinking, I need to think about the generations ahead, okay? I want to see my life, maybe I'm spending life with my grandchildren. I mean, their realities are different and you must speak to those realities. So we can't have a one size fits all and say, this is how you set your goals. You need to start off with that person and understand what is happening. I mean, when I talk to people and we talk personal finance and support them to come up with their financial goals, I tell people, if you want to retire at an island, maybe in Kalangala, or you want to retire in Nakasongola or Arua, your considerations are going to be totally different from somebody who says, I want to be in the middle of town, I want to find a place in Naguru, okay? Or I want to find a place in Kololo. These days there are those apartments. So it means that it's up to you. Now, if we understand your reality, then you're going to develop your goals based on that. And for me, being part of Mazima has also shown me a totally different world, because I now realize what your ordinary person grapples with. Sometimes I know that they benchmark us with NSSF, and I laugh and I tell people, look, NSSF has 1.2 million people. If each one of these just contributed 10,000 in a month, we are talking about 120 billion out of 10,000. Here you're struggling with people to get them to save that 10,000. And these are realities. We are all in this society. We are all in this society and we are grappling with things. And we also know that even when people get their retirement benefits, guess what? In 2 years, they've wiped them out because their idea of retirement was never dealt with. So it becomes important that we understand what is happening. This picture here is one of those sad stories that happened, I think, towards the last year. A friend of mine had their dad fall sick for the first time. Over 70, they had never seen him sick. He had never had anything, never complained of a headache, anything. So he falls sick. He's in his 70s. He had done all the investments, started giving out some of his estates to his children. And then he falls sick and it's an emergency case and he's in ICU. And you know what happens with ICU. So my friend decides that, my dad gave me a forest. Let me sell this forest so that I can raise money and look after my dad, okay? Yes, there is what they call being asset rich and cash poor. Now, in your moment of distress, when you're looking for money, that money will not show up. So they had this huge forest, and the person who was giving them the highest amount of money probably was telling them could give them about 5 million. But you're talking about somebody who is in ICU, and the bill, by the time she's considering that, the bill had already shot to over 100 million. So what does that mean? As you're thinking about your retirement goals, begin thinking strategically. Because sometimes we say, hey, whatever the reason, plant some tree, whatever, so we go by the wind and we are not educating ourselves. Because first of all, personal finance management simply requires that you have the knowledge, you have the skills, you have the confidence to be able to manage your personal finances and those of your family. So if we are not thinking about those things, then it becomes something that you need to pay attention to. Yes, it's important that we begin investing in all these different things, but guess what? There is a time where cash is king. And therefore, as you think about your retirement processes, you need to be thinking about what is going to be your deconsolidation process. That yeah, you've done a lot of, for those of you who are within your 15 to 30 years, you know that this is a time for you to just accumulate the cash. Save, because eventually you're going to need money to invest. And you don't want to begin investing by simply taking out loans that, yes, I want to invest, therefore you run after a loan. No, grow your money, save it so that then you can get that money and begin investing it. And at a later stage, you can decide what is good debt for you, for example. But what happens for retirement, what is now clear, what we are learning for people who are retired, I mean, at least I know that I'm dealing with retirees at my age, cash is king. There are a couple of things where you need your own money. And then if you don't have money and it's tied up in a forest, all I know, we know sometimes we love putting up rentals and all that. And then think about yourself at 75, at 80, and you're trying to run after tenants. You a judge, they're expecting you to listen to what they are telling you. Or even when you try, so at that point, you want your money in things that can bring you the cash. But then it takes you time to sit back and ask yourself, what kind of goals am I setting for myself that will push me where I am? The other key thing that we hear among people, because normally one of the things we do, we explore and figure out what fears people have. And they are literally concerned that they don't have networks. They don't have people. I will tell you that when you're in those powerful positions, sometimes people will call you and you'll even ignore their calls, okay? Because you know there is too much that is going on around you. They are meaningless probably to you, you know, and then there are those that whose calls you will see and you pick up very fast. But you must begin building your tribe so that you don't just show up in a space. And so ask yourself, what kind of spaces do you want to be in? How do you want to engage? So that then you begin thinking about how you want to do the connections, because it is very, very clear. You don't just put yourself out there. You need to be intentional in terms of understanding who am I connecting with and what value do I bring to this relationship? Because you don't also want a relationship that is parasitic. So every time you show up, somebody will read through that and say, no, what is the mutual benefit out of this relationship? Because it looks like somebody is sucking all the blood out of me. So you need to go into spaces and ask yourself, what value am I adding here? So that eventually as people see that value, they're able to say, yes, we want to connect with this person. Because remember, I showed you my cover picture and I said, it's one of those things that reminds me that when I'm building my tribe, very soon, my age mates will be out of jobs. And therefore, the question is, who am I connecting with? Because if I'm simply connecting with those ones who are my age mate and above, in about 10 years, probably I will be obsolete. There will be nobody that knows me in these different spaces. And yet I'm saying, I'm in a space where I need to contribute. That means I need to begin focusing a lot more on the millennials, on the Generation Z, even the data, the digital natives, connecting with them to understand their language, to understand the things that happen, because the different generations see things through different lenses. And therefore, as I'm thinking about the retirement journey, I'm also thinking, what does it mean for different tribes? This morning, when I was talking about money, I said, wow, this generation is doing things that are kind of intriguing. People are doing destination weddings and destination engagements. And they even have advanced teams, you know, somebody decides I want to propose and I don't want to propose from here. Then they are thinking, Where can I go? Maybe let me go to Bangkok, but I don't trust the things that I see online. They facilitate an advanced team. So they literally pay for their air tickets and their accommodation, go and check out these places so that we can go and make a big landing. So that shows you there is a way these other age groups are looking at life. And I want to first sit and just understand what is their perspective, what is driving them. Because I can't go in there and just tell them, you know what this is, you need to understand this. Some of us grew up at a time where, you know, you could literally smell luck and touch it. Okay, when it was a huge celebration for you to have soda. Now you don't tell somebody things, these are things that they see every day. So they are fascinated by different things. So what does that mean for you as you're setting your retirement goals? What are the expectations? Maybe your grandchildren, if you want to support them on a couple of things, you'll be there thinking, I want to take my grandchild to a destination birthday, and you're looking at your cash flows. Where is the money? So as we think about this, I don't have things to say, this is how you set realistic goals, but I have questions that I want to leave with you. I want you to consider, what is a realistic retirement for you? Because that realistic retirement will translate into the kind of goals that you're going to set for yourself. Remember, this is your journey. You're not going to copy Lydia's journey and take it for yourself. You're not going to copy Joanne's journey and take it to yourself. Maybe Joanne is laid back. Because if, for example, you want to retire and spend your time on a farm, ask yourself, how many acres do I require? And then that is going to begin informing your decisions. Another person might tell you, me, I can never be in the village. I want to have a condo, and I know that there are condos in Kororo. For me, that's where I want to be, in the middle of the city. Those considerations are different, and therefore they are informing your retirement decisions. And that is where you sit back and say, okay, what does realistic look like? What is my age? Because sometimes you might begin dreaming things, and you know you're dreaming, you're 45. And when we follow the traditional path of retirement, if I'm to use the benchmark of NSSF, they're telling you at 55, you can access funds. Or if you're in public service, they're telling you 60. And at 45, at 50, you begin coming up with these grandiose ideas, and you've never prepared any of that. Then it means it's not realistic. So look at your unique circumstances. What would it take for me to achieve my retirement goals? Are you clear about what journey you're going to undertake? Because that is what is going to help you think through. What fears do I harbor about retirement? Because those fears are actually blockages. They are going to inform certain assumptions and values that you create. So you need to confront your fears. Think through them, and then they will inform you in terms of, okay, if these are my fears, how can I overcome these fears? Because they are real to you. So the things that are giving you sleepless nights might not be the things that give me sleepless nights. I might even laugh at you when you're telling me things that are giving you sleepless nights, because our worldview is different. What do I look forward to in my retirement? If you're able to paint that picture of what you look forward to, it will be something. And the reason, for example, every time I look at these things, I think about the intervention, for example, that coaching does. I recently, last year, I actually dealt with a lady who was grappling, and she sent me a message and said, my finances are really terrible, and she was earning well. But when we got into her story, guess what I discovered? Her value is in generosity. She's generally a generous person. And I knew that there was no way we were going to break that generosity. How do you support that person in the middle of her generosity to think about the future? When she started thinking about her 50-year-old self and the things that she wanted to see and accomplish and do, then I asked her, so where is this 50-year-old in this picture of yours? So now that was an eye-opener. That realization that, yes, I'm actually savior to the world, but I'm not thinking about rewarding the 50-year-old. And even the choice of word of saying rewarding was very deliberate, because we had to put it in a language that would minister to her, for her to realize that there is nothing wrong for me to think about myself in the future. Because yes, by the time I hit 50, I will not have the energy that I have at 31. And who do I want to be in my retirement? I've just told you that for me, I want to be able to have meaningful conversations with people. And those meaningful conversations, I'm naturally an introvert. So it means I don't have your hyped things around myself. So you can imagine if the natural stance is for me to be quiet, then that means that when people come in and they are talking, they're just going to find some healing balm, because all I'm going to do is to listen, and ask them deeply reflective questions. And then if you're clear in terms of who you want to be in your retirement, where are you? Where am I on this journey? And that is where I will close it by asking you, what next from here? So I did have specific steps to tell you. This is step one. This is how you set your retirement goals, because each one of us is different. And I'm glad I took that stance, because you can imagine if 92% of the people on the call have gone for retirement conversations, then they come here and you ask them, have you thought about your family? What do your finances look like? I would have been hitting in the dark, so to speak. And those are our contacts. If you want to reach out to us, we have a website, www.imaginemeafrica.com. And if you want to engage with us, you simply drop an email at coach@imaginemeafrica.com. So thank you so much for having me, and Lydia, back to you to have a conversation around this.
Wow. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Difficult questions, but yes, maybe that's what we need to jolt us and inspire us and spur us on. Difficult questions to ponder. What is realistic? What is your own dream? What is your own vision? What struck me most? At our workplaces, we are superstars. We know how to develop visions, missions, goals, action plans. I don't know what else. Do we apply those tools to our personal lives? Why would you wail so loud on hearing the prospect of a restructure in your organization? Why? How can we apply the principles that we work with in our thriving institutions to our individual lives, to our individual plans? That's a challenge. And thank you, Joanne, for opening our eyes to some of these realities. A lot of us here, as we said in the poll, have attended talks organized by employers, organized by friends and family, but maybe we have not been given this set of questions to ponder. So ladies and gentlemen, that has been our talk tonight. And I thank Joanne again for sharing and bringing relatable stories, and above all, causing us to reflect on our individual situations. I am waiting for questions and answers. Drop your question, drop your comment in the chat box, Q&A chat box, or raise your hand and I'll pick you and you'll make a contribution. Let's talk. Let's talk money. Let's talk realistic retirement goals. Over to you, our dear participants. What's your reflection? Are these questions speaking directly to you? Are you thinking about them? What are you thinking about them? Yes, we have Daisy here who's saying, thank you, Joanne, for that reflection concerning all of us. Thank you, Daisy, for the compliment. Yes, thank you, Joanne. We have, okay, sorry, I'll pick in the Q&A. We have a question from Mr. Ibrahim Kalule. What is the ideal time to start planning for retirement? Ibrahim is asking Joan, what is the ideal time to start planning for retirement? I'll let Joan answer that as I wait for our next question. I see a few people typing, but yeah, there.
And I can see someone typing an answer, so I'm curious to see what their answer is. We need to start off by understanding the question, what is retirement? You know, we looked at the different, remember we looked at the different definitions of retirement. So Ibrahim, my curiosity is around understanding what is the lens of asking this question? Because we saw different definitions of retirement. So I need to be clear that I'm responding to the question with the lens with which you're seeing retirement.
I think Ibrahim may unmute and speak.
Yes.
Feel free.
Yes.
Feel free to unmute and speak, Mr. Kalule. It's open, it's free, don't be gagged.
Okay, if he's not unmuting, I will respond to it in a couple of ways. One, there's retirement, the traditional way we tend to, yeah, there is Ibrahim. So please go ahead to give more context for your question, and then, yeah, I can respond based on that.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the presentation. I actually joined a bit late, so I missed those particular areas. But you know, as a young person who has just started working, so you're asking yourself, you know, what is the ideal time? So for me, I'm just trying to look at it from my perspective as a person who has just started working. What sort of planning do I need? When do I plan? So I joined in late, so I missed that particular segment that you're talking about.
Okay. Thank you, Ibrahim. And you see, that's why I wanted to understand the context. What is very clear is that Ibrahim is starting out, and kudos to you, because many people miss opportunities at the start. And I will tell you the most wasted years is the first decade of your work life. At least go away with that, knowing the first decade is the most wasted time of our life. And so it becomes important for you that as you start out, begin visualizing your retirement, begin knowing that at a certain point X, I'm going to exit. And the way we are looking at it, it's interesting that the younger people, the younger generation is not like us. For us, we would stay put, you work for 10 years with the same organization. These days, people are first 2 years, they feel bored, they want to get to the next organization and all that, and they feel like I want to go and conquer the world and do my own things. So really what this means, Ibrahim, you're at a good point in life where you can actually sit back and ask yourself, what are my life goals? What are those things that I'm looking out for? Because yes, money is just one aspect. And like we have seen that in retirement, money is king. So because we know that money is king in retirement, then it has to be one of the goals that you have. And so you have to think for yourself and say, with every paycheck that I have, how much can I put aside? Okay. And given that you've given me context where you are, because when we were starting the call, 92% of our participants said have been in retirement conversations. Now, there's a general rule in terms of people saying, you know, every time you earn, save at least 10 to 20% of your income. Now, when you're starting out and you don't even have these huge responsibilities around you, push that figure, stretch yourself. You can even decide to do 50%. Because you're stretching yourself as an individual who doesn't have the much pressure that are going to come with starting family, supporting, I don't know who, and all, that entire chain. And therefore, you use the opportunity that you have and that gap that you have for yourself to say, let me do something that is different. But in terms of the general traditional understanding of retirement, we say, start planning for your retirement the day you step into office to start working.
Great, thank you very much. I have some messages here. There's a question from Goretti. In your work experience, are there workplaces that are encouraging and nurturing alternative sources of income, like side businesses? How do they do it? What do they do? We've got some advice from Glo Sally, who says that as soon as you start earning, join the pension scheme. Sauda Kaija says, if it's not about forests, rentals, what do you advise as the appropriate secure investments? Those are the 2 questions and 1 comment that I have coming in so far. Over to you, Joanne, again.
Okay, thank you. I will start with Sauda. I did not say that it's not about the forests. It's the timing of working through these investments. So it means that at a certain age, for example, because I saw that 31 to 50, maybe during that time you can be busy investing in your forests, investing in your rentals and what, but as you approach your retirement age, you need to begin liquidating and transfer your money into things that are going to give you the cash flow that you require. Because if you're 75, you're not going to go running after tenants. They will even look at you and think, can't you understand what we are going through? At 80, they will even tell you, this is what has happened. And at that age, you're just feeling, okay, fine, let me just give back. You look back and then there's nothing that is happening. So you begin at the time when you're investing, diversify your investments. Try out different things. And of course, the risk appetite differs from person to person. Some people have a high risk appetite because the higher the risk, the likelihood of the return, but the higher the loss if it goes under. That is what you need to realize. But now, as you realize that you're closing in on your retirement age and you've been investing, you have things that have come all the way 20, 30 years, begin asking yourself, how do I now begin deconsolidating these things and turning them into liquid? Because you're going to need real cash to engage and deal with the different things. And Glossary is saying, as soon as you start earning, yes, join the pension scheme. And like I mentioned, one of the brutal realities that I tell people to reflect on is to say, look, your employer has been forced to contribute 10% for you. Literally, what that means is that the only thing that you're staking is 5% if you're part of NSSF. So it means that as far as your retirement is concerned, your only contribution is 5%. And that's why I said that for me, where I sit as the chair for the Mazima Voluntary Retirement Scheme, I'm happy to begin seeing that people from the corporate world are kind of joining in because they are beginning to make sense of, I need an alternative. Because it is very clear, research doesn't lie. NSSF did a study among their savers, and they realized that people wipe out their savings within 2 years. That means they were never ready, they never prepared for retirement. They gathered the head knowledge, and then they were happy that their employer is putting in money for them. And guess what? They got excited. Those are the things that happen. That's why we saw that picture. The civil servants are now saying, okay, now we need to cut back age. But how do you fight age? Even if you turn the figures, your body will show. It will kind of give up. So in your work experience, are there workplaces that are encouraging and nurturing alternative sources of income, like side businesses? How do they do it? What do they do? What we are increasingly seeing, it's very interesting. Like this morning, I told you I was speaking to close to 200 people in one of the banks, and I found it very amazing that they have what they call, a financial academies to support their staff to begin looking realistically at life, because they are beginning to think we have all these products and services that we pitch out there to our clients who are coming in. They will come and try to take the services, but how are we empowering people internally? So those are things that the conversations are beginning to happen. Now, as those conversations are happening, you need to empower yourself and ask, is this something that I can do and I'm kind of hands off or not? Because at the same time, you cannot come up with a business venture that is going to compete with your employer's time. Nobody is going to pay you for splitting your time. So you need to begin thinking, what is that thing that resonates with you? I will tell you that when I was still employed, and I discovered what I had wanted to do, because it's in 2014 that I actually came up with a plan that I wanted to exit. I wanted to exit and start my own thing, and I had planned that I wanted to step out in June of 2017. And I started, you know, one of the things that the person I spoke to when we were having a conversation, they advised me and said, you know, work every day as if you're already out there. What did that mean? I became a better manager of my time. As soon as my clock hit when I'm supposed to stop doing my employer's work, I would switch to my things. Then it meant that, you know, in my book, I talk about the concept of ghost hours. I literally had to account for those 24 hours and ask myself, what is happening with this time? That's when I also discovered how much time I spend in traffic. And I decided while in traffic, I'm going to listen to things that are speaking to the things that I want to pursue. So that means I redeemed those 2 hours. Like every day I was equipping and empowering myself on something. So yeah, the conversations are happening, but what you need to be cognizant of is as you're thinking about the different ventures, begin thinking, how much time does it require me to have? Please don't go and become a telephone farmer, for example. It won't work. So you're going to put your money down a rabbit hole. So probably what you might need is to say, if I'm getting this money and it's consistent, is there a financial instrument that I can use and put my money in there so that it begins growing as I think about different things that I will do? Or are there investments that I can be part of? Because people are always looking for capital to inject into things, but you need reliable people. You need reliable people, you need the trust. That's why I talked about building your village. As you build your tribe, you begin getting to learn about opportunities that are out there. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. 2 more, one from Emma and one from anonymous attendee. And Emma asks, it's really about also that side business. And he says, how can you advise somebody who is in a very demanding job that does not afford any spare time to engage in side business? During COVID times, most companies really trimmed staff and left a few doing the work of many. So it's like he wants to engage in something else, but the job is just too tight, okay, and very demanding. Then what would you advise a product of a true African family setting full of dependents that you always have nothing to save as you seek to balance all interests? A true African family. You've got so many dependents and you're always struggling to balance interests. What would be your advice to break such chains and prepare for retirement at an early stage? And how do we get the book and how much is it? Corporates at a crossroads. There you are, Joanne.
Hey, thank you so much, Lydia. I will start with the easy one. The book, Aristoc has it at 90,000, but it's also on Amazon at 9.99. So very easy to find. Anonymous, my question to you, Anonymous, is after you have saved the world in a month, do the demands stop coming to you? That is the starting point. Then you realize that that chain will never end. When you're having that list of dependents, include yourself among the dependents so that a certain portion will definitely come to you. You know, we are like the story that I shared of somebody who, you know, she earning fairly well, has nothing to show for it. When we started the conversation, it was the generosity, and generosity is such a beautiful thing. It's a great value, but to what extent? I will also tell you for a fact that there are also dependents that we simply grease. You know what I mean? Because somebody has decided, I'm not going to go and do anything, and therefore they are on a rotational ask. And guess what? You're the very people who are facilitating them month in, month out. They have no motivation because they believe I have a chain. You know, one time we were discussing, I said, do you know that some people can actually bag like 2 million? Because you can look at a process and you see somebody started off asking for 100,000, it shifts to 150, it shifts to 200, but that message is going to how many people? And therefore they begin actually earning, and they will even begin saving, and you are not saving, you who is trying to save the world. So the idea is, unfortunately, we are in a setup, and I understand these things. I purely understand the African setup because I'm a product of an African setup, and I'm a product of the extended family as a beneficiary. So sometimes I would go home and ask my guardians, you people, how were you doing these things? So the idea is, as you think about that entire list, be part of that list, because in each one of us is a child who wants to be rewarded. So you should be able to smile and say, I can see my portfolio growing. Start somewhere, even if you're going to put aside, I will give you the scenario in Mazima that we tell people, just save 10,000 a week. That is all we are asking you to do. Start off somewhere so that you're building up something. So as you see it growing, you're going to get the excitement, and you know that the eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest. There's the power in compounding. The little that you're putting aside on a daily, eventually it adds up. How can you advise someone who has a very demanding job? Of course, when we are talking about engaging in side businesses, what does side business look like for you? Because in most cases, people think everyone has to go and set up something. And I can guarantee you, we are all not cut out for business. That's why I say sometimes, what else can help you grow your money? So you need to educate yourself in terms of what are the opportunities out there, which are the ones, and you begin ranking them, and you're able to see, okay, this would take my time, this wouldn't take my time, and you have an understanding. When I started offering the services that I offer, Saturdays were my working days. Even Sundays, sometimes people would look for me, and as long as I'm through with church, I would reach out to them. So the thing is, do you understand what it is that you're contributing to? For me, I knew that it was my brain that I'm going to use. So imagine me started on Saturdays. We would run, Saturdays was such a busy day for me, because then people would come in, but I was testing concepts. I was testing all these different things that I had been developing in a workplace, and they were working out. And all that, I normally tell people, I'm one of those that did not spend any of my penny to invest in the company, because what would happen, people would pay, and then when they would pay, I would pay the legal fees. Another person comes, pays for something. In fact, that first year I was just working for lawyers. Yeah. So it's more conversations around what the options are for you.
Wow, interesting. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, dear participants, for all your questions. Thank you for your participation. Members, all good things come to an end. And so we're going to end this. It's been deeply enriching, and the conversations can go on and on. Joanne has given us her contact. Please ask. The more you ask, the more Joanne shares with you. And indeed, the more she improves her own concepts, because every time you have a new question to answer, you reflect again on the message that you have been giving people. So let's engage even beyond this webinar, because as we always say at UBRA, old age does not discriminate. Old age does not discriminate. A carpenter, a plumber, a teacher, a president, a consultant, if God gives you life, surely you move towards old age. Every day lived is a step towards old age. And that means that things change about the body. There are things that you are able to do at age 30 that you will not be able to do at age 50 or at age 70. How have you prepared? We thank you, Joanne, for the message. We thank our sponsors for making this possible. We thank especially the coordinators, the hosts, the Uganda Institute of Banking and Financial Services, and Uganda Bankers Association in partnership with Bank of Uganda. This was great. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite you to our next series. Next week, we shall continue talking money. On Tuesday at 1 p.m., we'll be talking about key investment principles that every woman should know. Key investment principles every woman should know. Tuesday at 1 p.m. and we shall have Miss Patricia Kiwanuka, CEO, Revenue Streams. On Wednesday at 1 p.m., why investment matters for the working class. Why investment matters for the working class. Mr. Kisesi Zak will be talking to us, and he's the head alternative channels at Old Mutual Financial Services. That is that's Wednesday at 1 p.m. Please join in. Don't miss this opportunity. It's free, it's exciting, it's enriching. And with that, I'd like to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Thank you all for your participation. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your compliments. Thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us. Be blessed and have a very restful weekend. Bye-bye.